Emo and alternative artists that have been in TV shows. In this video, I will be covering emo artists that have been in TV shows that aren't just playing their music. There will be some exceptions to this, so if there are bands that are like performing in the TV show and they're pretending to play, then I'll include those. But if it's just like a performance where they're on Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, I'm gonna probably just skip on those for now. So here are some emo artists that you didn't know were on TV shows. Silent Library. Silent Library was an early MTV show where people would sit in a library and there would be pranks that would happen. And the whole premise of this show is that you're trying not to laugh with your band or group of friends. And because of that being such a general thing, they would have a lot of famous artists on it, including people like Justin Bieber before people even fully knew who he was. I mean, I did because I'm a day one believer. If you and your crew stayed quiet enough, you would make a certain amount of money. Each round, you would get more money. And they would eventually make it even more money that you'd be trying to win. So some of these people would leave with around $5,000. That's a lot of money. Most of these episodes were just random groups of people, but my favorite part about it was seeing all the bands they would have on it. And oh boy, if you liked Warped Tour and alternative bands, this was the place to go. Here's just a list of all the alternative bands I could find that they had. All Time Low, Forever the Sickest Kids, We the Keens, Hey Monday and Stereo Skyline, Ann Arbor, Never Shout Never, 303, The Ready Set. This lineup is insane. For me as a young kid, seeing these bands on TV was the coolest thing ever. Because there's been a lot of times where you'll see your favorite band perform or you'll see their music video on TV, but seeing them be themselves and do challenges before people were really making YouTube videos all the time, it was really cool. And if you like this scene, you should definitely check out Silent Library. Christina Grimmie. In 2009, Christina Grimmie started doing YouTube covers. Now I don't know if people necessarily consider Christina Grimmie as an emo, but I personally do. Her whole vibe and image always gave off an alternative style to me. And in 2014, Christina Grimmie auditioned for The Voice and blew the judges away. She did an amazing cover of Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. On season 6 of The Voice, Christina Grimmie ended up getting 3rd place. I never really watched Christina Grimmie's content when I was younger, but to see a YouTuber go on The Voice and make it that far was super inspiring and cool to me. Jacoby, the vocalist of Papa Roach. In 2007, Jacoby had his own TV show on MTV called Scarred. This TV show was pretty much ridiculousness or equals 3 before its time. It had a very rock and skater element to it. Jacoby looks very rock and alternative in this show, and the whole show's production screams 2007. Now, I never actually watched this show. I didn't even know it was a thing until I really did my research, but it does seem like something I would have ate up when I was a kid. This show ended up lasting 2 seasons, and I just have to say, MTV really supported the alternative scene back in the day. Looking back on it, it's just so cool to see alternative musicians have their own shows. But nowadays, if we had our own shows, everyone would just be singing, "Cut my life into pieces," which is actually very fitting because Jacoby did write that song. Or they'd be singing Emo Girl.
Fell in love with an emo girl.
I can't go anywhere without people singing that to me. Mason Musso of Metro Station. Now this one is an extremely hidden gem, and I didn't know this ever existed, but I was doing some deep research. I had no idea that he's ever done any acting, but way back in the day, he had a little cameo in this big show called Arrested Development. It's nothing too crazy, which honestly to me makes it kind of cooler just to be able to see him in it, because I don't know, it's like a hidden gem. I can't find any good footage of it, but I did find a little clip on YouTube, and I'm sorry about the low quality, but here it is. And yes, the person right there, that is Mason from Metro Station. And if you don't know who Metro Station is formed by Trey Cyrus and Mason Musso. Trey Cyrus being related to Miley Cyrus, Billy Ray, and Noah Cyrus. And Mason being related to Mitchell Musso, who was also in Hannah Montana. I almost missed this one, and I would have been so disappointed in myself. There's this band called Cartel, and they were pretty much the original All Time Low. They were doing the pop punk thing really early on. They have some really great songs. My favorites are Honest and Say Anything Else. And the only reason why I know of this show is because my producers that did my first EP and my last album actually produced for them, and they were in the show, which is pretty silly. That TV show is called Band in a Bubble, and I wish they would do a show like this again. This is such a fun concept. They gave Cartel, the band, 2 weeks to record a whole album. Not only that, but they are stuck in a bubble for the whole time that they're doing it. Now, it's not necessarily completely a bubble. I mean, it's pretty much just a house that's inside of this bubble looking thing. This show aired on MTV, and it was 1 season long. I never watched this show when I was a kid, but I definitely want to look into it because it looks like a really fun concept. MTV was killing it in the early 2000s. They had so many great shows. Hey, MTV, if you ever want to do a show with any more emo people, this guy wears eyeliner. Have you guys ever heard of the band Fall Out Boy? I know they're super underground, you probably never even heard of them. Well, Fall Out Boy has been on TV at least twice from my knowledge. On the TV show 90210, Fall Out Boy had a performance episode on the first episode of one of their seasons. I don't know which one. But the coolest thing that Fall Out Boy's done on TV, at least in my opinion, was be in a whole episode of Teen Titans Go. They were literally animated into the episode and performed their music and talk and everything. It's fucking dope. I know a lot of people don't like Teen Titans Go, but I think it's pretty cool. I mean, who doesn't want to see Pete Wentz and Patrick Stump talking to Beast Boy. That's freaking awesome. Machine Gun Kelly, Colson Baker. Now, a lot of people don't want to consider him alternative, but I do. He's in the scene. He's been in the scene. With that being said, Machine Gun Kelly has done a lot of movies. He has done at least one TV show from my knowledge, and that TV show is called Roadies. It had one season in 2016, and Machine Gun Kelly is one of the main characters in it, and he plays a character called Wes. And this TV show is pretty much what you would expect. It's a comedy about roadies. I've never seen it, but I would assume it's like a scripted version of what Warped Tour is supposed to be like. Hopefully without all the sus stuff that happened on Warped Tour, let's be honest. Machine Gun Kelly has also been featured on episodes of Wild and Out, which is a show where people pretty much try to diss each other to have the best roast. I would do horrible on that. I would have so much anxiety. He's also been featured on episodes of Ridiculousness. You know that show that is always on MTV that pretty much killed everything good on MTV? This next one is just a ton of people, so bear with me. Andy Biersack of Blackville Brides, Kellen Quinn of Sleeping with Sirens, Ben Bruce of Asking Alexandria, Sid Wilson of Slipknot, James from Asking Alexandria, and Juliet Sims, also known as Little Caesar. Little Caesar? I have a hard time saying that name. In 2017, there was a movie that came out called American Satan. It was produced by Ash Alvinson, who runs Sumerian Records. They probably have some of your favorite bands signed to them. After that movie released, Ash Alvinson wanted to do more with that series. And like that, Paradise City was born, the TV show that was based around American Satan, the movie. So if you're wondering why this movie has so many bands, it's because Ash runs Sumerian Records, which has a lot of alternative bands. And he's just been involved in the rock scene for a long time. And I have seen the show, and it pretty much continues on the story from the movie American Satan. And it's really cool to see all these band members that I watch just acting in a TV show. I enjoyed my time watching this, and I would also say that I kind of enjoyed it more than the movie. And hey, if they ever do another season, as I said, I still wear eyeliner and have emo hair, so you know. Juliet Sims. Juliet Sims was a part of a band called Atomic Lover. They did pretty well in the emo alternative scene. Now Juliet Sims does music under Lilith Caesar. I hope I'm saying that right. The first time I did hear about Juliet Sims was because she was dating Andy Biersack of Blackville Brides. And now they're married, so congrats on that. Juliet Sims was on season 2 of The Voice. Back in 2012, season 2 of The Voice aired, and Juliet Sims auditioned. And Juliet Sims became the runner-up on season 2 of The Voice. That is impressive. Not only that, but I have to give a shout out to Andy Biersack for being in the crowd. I thought that was really cool as a kid, seeing Andy Biersack with his long hair and eyeliner just clapping for his girlfriend and being proud of her. And if you don't know what The Voice is, it's pretty much like American Idol. There's 4 judges, they turn their chair if they like you. If they don't turn their chair. And the judge she ended up going with was CeeLo Green. You know that guy that made
Forget You.
He also had like a phone explode on his face. Speaking of The Voice, there was another person that was in the alternative scene that was on The Voice, and that person would be Cassidy Pope of Hey Monday. Cassidy Pope nowadays just does solo music, but she's still highly involved in the alternative scene. And in 2012, Cassidy Pope auditioned for The Voice, and the team she ended up going with was Blake Shelton. And just like that, Cassidy Pope won season 3 of The Voice.
Cassidy Pope! Congratulations! You have just won The Voice, representing Team Lake.
To see someone that started in an alternative band win like a show like American Idol or The Voice is just so fucking awesome. But that's not the only thing that Cassidy Pope's done on TV. Cassidy Pope and Pete Wentz of Fall Out Boy were on an episode of Degrassi: The Next Generation. Here's a photo of them. Wow, that is very emo. Pete Wentz. Oh my gosh, this guy has done way too many TV shows. Pete Wentz has been on so many shows, I cannot believe it. Let's go through them pretty quickly. Pete Wentz was on the Nickelodeon TV show that not a lot of people liked called School of Rock. It's not the one with Jack Black, but it does have Pete Wentz in a couple episodes, so I guess that's alright. He was also on one episode of Robot Chicken in season 5. He played the Tin Man, and I would assume that's the Tin Man of Wizard of Oz.
Oh, don't listen to them.
They don't have to be so mean.
Come on, buddy. You've got courage now.
He was also in one episode of the show Friends with Benefits, and he played a character named Joe. I've never heard of this show before. He was on another show called Team Unicorn for one episode, and he played an unnamed bassist. I've never heard of that as well. He was in one episode of CSI New York, which I've actually heard of that show, so that's cool, and here's some photos of him getting arrested. And he was on season 2, episode 1 of the show Californication.
Do we like her?
Pete, from Fall Out Boy, you showed.
Didn't anyone think I was gonna show?
Pete Wentz, you do too much, man. You do too much. Travis Barker. If you don't know who Travis Barker is, he's the drummer for Machine Gun Kelly. I just wanted to piss you off. Yeah, he's the drummer for Blink-182. In 2005, Travis Barker had his own MTV show called Meet the Barkers. That show would end up lasting 2 seasons. The show would just document his life with his newly born children and his wife, and his life being the drummer of Blink-182, which is fucking crazy. And on February 7th, 2006, the last episode of Meet the Barkers would air. And this was just kind of a typical reality show. show, which honestly MTV always did the best in my opinion. Chris Franzak of Attila. Now this one is really interesting because this was before Attila really had any attention. The band Attila was formed in 2005, and this episode of this show aired in 2006. And you're probably wondering what this show is called, and this show would be called Made. And this show ended up lasting 13 seasons, which is super impressive. This episode aired October 23rd of 2006, and here's some photos of Franz from Attila on this whole episode. This whole episode was dedicated to him and just making him into a rock star like he wanted to be. The whole premise of the show Made is just a self-improvement show. So they would just try to make you a better version of yourself and try to help you reach your goals. Unfortunately, it's super hard to find any footage of this episode, but I did find some clips of Franz talking about this episode.
I was about 16 years old when the show aired on MTV, and it was awesome. I can say it was definitely a great experience.
Halsey. I don't know if everyone would consider Halsey emo, but she does have roots in emo, so I'm gonna count her. Halsey was also in 2 episodes of that show Roadies that Machine Gun Kelly was on. In 2017, she voiced a character named Sydney in American Dad, which is pretty cool. And in 2020, she was on an episode of the show Scooby-Doo Guess Who. I never even heard of this series of Scooby-Doo, but apparently it existed. And on that episode, she played a character named Halsey, so I'm assuming that she probably played herself. Young Blood. In 2021, Young Blood was in an episode of the show From the Top Olympians and Rock Stars. I've never heard of this show, but apparently it exists. Before Young Blood was known as Young Blood, he was on Disney Channel. He was actually in 6 episodes of the UK show called The Lodge. I've only seen clips of this, but apparently he was on a Disney Channel show. Palais Royale. Before Palais Royale was known as Palais Royale, they had a band when they were younger. It kind of had the vibes like the Jonas Brothers. And they never necessarily had their own TV show or anything like that, but they were featured on Radio Disney, and their band was called Crop Circles. Unfortunately, Crop Circles did end, but Palais Royale did begin. And Remington, the vocalist of Palais Royale, also did the voice for Andy Biersack's singing voice in Paradise City and American Satan. Jared Leto of 30 Seconds to Mars. Jared Leto was in 2 episodes of the show Camp Wilder, which aired in 1992. It was before I was fucking born. Jared Leto's been acting for a long time. He was also in one of the episodes of the show Almost Home. He was also in one episode of the show called Rebel Highway. And in 1994, he was in the show called My So-Called Life for 19 episodes. From that point on, Jared Leto was pretty much just in movies and doing his music. There's only one other show that he was kind of in recently. In 2020, he was in the TV miniseries called We Crash for 8 episodes. I gotta be honest, I haven't seen any of these shows, but I do find it interesting that he's acted in so many things. And it's because of that he got to play Morbius and the best version of the Joker. There we have it. There's some emo people that have been on TV. You can also listen to my music on Spotify and everywhere else. All my links to all my social media are down below, so be sure to check those out. Stay happy, narcobulas, bitch, don't quit, and peace out, thug pugs. Okay, bye!
Me face down, down across your floor. Me face down, dead across your